Hello, my name is David Waite from Manchester in England. I'm a meditation teacher, I'm a counsellor, I'm a registered counsellor. And I want to offer to you, as I do to other people in my area, a program about meditation called Meditation Can Transform Your Life. This is the first part, the theory part of a three-part program. The second part is a group discussion, which I'm not intending to video. And the third one is how my clients, how the candidates will meditate going forwards. Today's session will talk about novel ways of looking at how the psyche works, what goes wrong with the psyche, what can we do about that, and then specifically how meditation works, and then it will add a very brief introduction to meditation. The meditation process that I offer takes 10 minutes to teach. It is that simple, and it is remarkably effective. It is the simplicity of it which makes it most effective. So I have been meditating for over 40 years. I found that the meditation pretty much saved my life at the time that I started. I continue to do it, not because I necessarily need to do it, but because it continually enhances my life. There are other forms of meditation out there, and there's something called mindfulness, which I've yet to properly understand, really. So I have an adage, basically, that says, if you ask 10 people what meditation is, you'll probably get 10 different answers. And if you ask people what mindfulness is, you may not get an answer that makes any sense at all. And it irks me that a lot of people talk about the goodness of this thing, like mindfulness or meditation, without actually identifying the fact that there is a plethora of different forms of this, and some of them really are less helpful than others. So the specific technique that I teach is extremely powerful. I know it because I see it with my clients. It's very quiet. It's very ordinary, deceptively so. It's very effective. It's also very traditional. This has been going, this is based upon anapanasati, the simplest form of. It's available in all meditation, all Buddhist centers throughout the world. And as such, it goes back millennia. In fact, it goes back, we believe, even before the concept of Buddhism, into the Vedic tradition. So what I'm actually offering is nothing new, and it's nothing eclectic or anything. It's just really simple. What we've done in the Western world is we've taken the wisdom of the East, I believe, and decided in our cognitive wisdom, I use the wisdom in inverted commas, to develop it so it becomes more effective. The problem is our wedded attitude towards the cognitive mind being clever seems to have missed the fact that the subconscious is wise, and that's where we need to be. It's dead easy to teach. It just takes 10 minutes to teach, no more. Dead easy to learn. People get immediate effect. The hardest thing to do is to keep it up every day. So I think that we need to eat to keep our bodies healthy. We need to sleep to keep our minds healthy. We need to meditate to be happy. But if you don't want to do the happy bit, don't bother meditating. The thing you see is, I need to eat, otherwise I'll die. I can't not sleep because it will just happen. But I can choose not to meditate. I found some remarkable and amazing things happening in clients through meditation. But I now conclude something different. The most amazing thing is that we're not all doing it. You see, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, in the Western world, everybody was religious. They were all Christian, everybody went to church, etc. Now, I'm not necessarily condoning that process, but the point is everybody had a view, everybody had a concept of a spirituality, of something within, if you will. But religions, of course, have had their problems, and enlightenment came along, science came along, and enlightenment with it, and said, well, the religions talk a lot of rubbish. And there was a fair amount of rubbish, I think, of Galileo and Copernicus, with the Earth being round and circulating around the sun. But unfortunately, it threw the spiritual baby out with the religious bathwater. And we're trying to get back in there, really, on all sorts of different methods. When I started this 40 years ago, it really was effective for me, and it still is. But as a counsellor, I had to ask myself the question, can it do any harm? My clients are my responsibility. Could it do good? I can only try. So I tried, I introduced it a few years ago. Blown away by its effect. So my counselling is person-centred counselling. For me, there's no other sort of counselling. But I now call it a different thing. I now call it soul-centred counselling. Because the most powerful thing within my process is the meditation. Clients can take it or leave it. But I keep a record of all my work, anonymously of course. And I find that those who take up the meditation progress well. Those who don't, very often don't progress so well. And some of the people who progress well progress spectacularly. And there are other times when I'm thinking, I really don't know what's going to help here other than the meditation. Because in counselling I can offer the meditation, then I can monitor how it goes down the line. I don't delve into it every session, I teach it and see how it works. And every now and again we might have a consultation or a discussion about what you think is helping, what's the most powerful thing you're doing. You see, I will offer 50 minutes or an hour a week, but my client is doing it every single day. And my client is the powerful thing in the healing process. So I've developed this theory, not by reading books, because the books are written by people who perhaps are good at writing books. This isn't about writing books, this is about being with people. So my learning is my clients. If I don't learn from my clients, I'm going nowhere. So the theory kind of goes like this really, and it's a theory of being, if you will. The theory of the person, the theory of the software. See, I have daughters who are GPs, and they have a physical body, and they will draw a picture of the body and identify the organs within it, much more than I can do, but they be first to admit that they know a limited amount about that. For me, this is the best we get with the psychological side. We don't really know a great deal. There are people who delve into the brain, but I'm not quite sure how much that really helps the psychological, the counselling process. It does, in the sense I do use neuroscience in my work, but it's not dominating it. Forgive the crude nature of the board here, but we do have something slightly more valid and legible over there, and it's called the circle diagram, and it's got 3 components to it. Okay. So, if I think of my computer at home, okay, it's got hardware, it's got software. Without the software, it's nothing, it's a waste of material. So it's all about the software. I can't touch the software, my senses don't touch it, but I can observe it. I can see an elephant, I can't smell it, I can't do anything with it. It's an image, okay? But it's powerful, it's important. I used to think in my previous career, this isn't my first career, I used to think that I was a body with a mind in it. No wonder I didn't have success, no wonder I needed the meditation. And now I realise that I'm actually a mind, or soul actually, with a body wrapped around it. So the thing is I have a practice which is called Enjoy Life Counselling. And all I want to do in my life is enjoy it. Sounds very selfish. But all I want my clients to do is enjoy their lives as well. And that is feeling good at the time. That's software. That's my perception of self. not my hardware. I might have lost a leg in a campaign or something, but if I'm happy in myself, that's all that really matters. So I have software and hardware. My hardware's a bit soft, but generally speaking, you get the idea. And the software isn't my brain. The software is the concepts within the brain. Okay. I had a client once who was a doctor of psychology. And I said, "What's the word mean?" She said, "Well, it's the study of mind and behaviour." I said, "That's fine. Study I go with, Greek word logos means word, but it's an extended meaning, study, zoology, paleontology, all that. But I take issue with the word psyche, you see, because the Greek word for mind is phrenes and schizophrenia. So if you were to take it literally, it'd be phrenology, but we've already used that anyway. You see, the Greek word psyche means soul. You see, I see the psychologists studying the mind and I see the counsellor studying the soul. They might be interested in how people think. I'm interested in how people feel. People come to counselling because they feel bad and they leave because they feel good. They don't come because they think bad and think good. That's not what it's about. So it's all about the soul, i.e. the feeling part. And that's what I express here, okay, in my diagram. So basically I'm saying, in the equivalent to my daughter's picture of the body, the physical body, this is a picture of my soul, if you will. So I have a conscious bit, this annulus on the outside. And that's what I'm aware of, so I'm doing this video, and sat here and talking, and it's whatever. So it's limited. But the rest of me ticks over inside remarkably. Keeps my heart going, my breathing, all the bodily systems. But also, for instance, I'm developing, as I speak to you, concepts. This isn't a written thing, I'm taking from notes. So I'm processing stuff which you don't see in here. And these thoughts and these concepts I'm translating into a language which happens to be English, because I was brought up in English-speaking family. So really, the vast majority of me is subconscious, and when I draw that annulus round as conscious, it's really very exaggerated. The conscious me is about the thickness of that line, probably. Who can say? All I can say is my consciousness on what I can control in myself is extremely small compared to the rest of me. Okay? So it makes me sort of almost powerless to control myself. I sometimes feel that. I'm sure you do too. My background's technical. So when I draw a circle like this, I think, well, what's at the centre? That's interesting. So I have a consensus of opinion continually from clients. When we talk about the centre, I'm talking about a perfect core. I'm talking about the person they was meant to be before the rubbish happened in their lives. I'm talking about a place of perfect peace. I'm talking about the source of all the strength I'll ever need. I haven't met a client who disagreed with that. These are really powerful concepts. This was published in the Therapy Today in June 2015, the article on circle diagram. So that's kind of a theory of how it is, but how does it work, okay? So if I'm an amoeba, a single cell animal, okay, then all I'm interested in doing is keeping a balance in here, because if I don't, I'll very quickly die. So I will take in nutriment or something from the outside environment through this interface, and then I will discharge what I don't want, okay? So by doing that exercise, then I maintain a balance in there. If I maintain a balance in there, I stay alive. If I don't, I don't, as an amoeba. I'm a very complex amoeba, okay? Not single cell, but billions of cells. Okay? But I still have the same thing. I still want to maintain a balance in there. And I do it by taking from the environment what I want and discharging what I don't want. And I take signals from the inside the environment, okay? And that signal might come out somewhere from here. And I'd be thinking about it, I'd be saying, what's that signal about? Oh, I know what it is. It says I'm hungry. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get something to eat. And then that feeds back into there, and then it takes that out. Okay? So I'm obeying a feed, obeying some information, listening to some information, doing something about it, and that constant process of signals from the wisdom internally through the conscious self, which processes it in interfaces with the world, enables me to keep a balance in here, so I can now have my stomach adequately full, food, liquid, I can sleep, I can do all the other things, I can also deal with my emotional issues, which is part of all that equation. Okay? My strapline for my college was, we all need to love and be loved, to which I add every day. So this emotional thing here going on is there. So I took the dog for a walk this morning. I met somebody. How are you? I'm well, thank you. Was a nice dog you have? Yes, and yours too. So we exchanged something. We said we're not afraid of each other, and we want to greet each other, and just recognise each other, and off we went. And it was a nice start to the day. And that's the way days need to be. We need to respect and care for each other, not massively, just a little bit all the time. Okay. So part of this process, okay, of maintaining a balance here, apart from the conscious stuff, is sleep. Okay. During the process of sleep, our bodies are automatically paralysed. During that process of paralysis, the physical body will maintain itself. But also there's other things happening in the mind. Information which has been gathered during the course of the day will be processed through the limbic system at the base of the brain into the neocortex, and effectively from the RAM of the brain, if we can put it that way and compare it to a computer, into the hard drive of the computer. So the next morning that RAM section, the active section, is available, and we can also access the information from yesterday. That's the idea. I know that some people's systems are better than others, and mine isn't brilliant at that, but generally speaking, that's the process that goes on. So that's the physical bit, and that's the cognitive bit. But there's another bit as well that goes on in the sleep, and that is I'll be taking emotional impacts during the course of the day. Somebody's been quite insulting to me, or I've received a letter I didn't want, or I might have an argument with a neighbour. Not very often, but it's possible. So these things can happen. So these are emotional impacts, which in the same ways I might have a physical bruise on my body which needs to be resolved. So during the course of the night, during REM sleep in particular, then those emotional impacts are dealt with during the time when we are safe, because we're not going to respond to it because we can't. And we are subconscious. But if I have an impact on day one and the night doesn't fully resolve it, then it will have a go the next night, and we'll be thinking about it the next day and so on. And there may come a point where it's all resolved and we're quite happy, we can talk about it, joke about it, it's not an issue. But it might be that the impact was so great that actually it carries on pretty much forever, unless something's done. And I like it to the physical side as well. So if I get a bump or a bruise, then my body will sort it. But if I break an arm or something, I need to go to hospital. I need some external support. So an emotion which has not been resolved down the line, which becomes a trauma, that's what a trauma is, an emotional trauma, then needs some extra help. And that is where the meditation comes in. It's where counselling comes in, of course. So the thing is, we have to remember this, and this is something which psychology doesn't properly really address, in my view, is my body self-heals brilliantly. If I cut my hand, my body knows it cut. I might not physically, but my body knows it's cut. It knows where it's cut, it knows what the nature of it is, it knows what to do about it, and it gets ahead of doing it. And there's nothing I can particularly do rather than put a plaster on it that'll change all of that. It's brilliant. Okay. I have a very small input to it. In the same way emotionally, the emotions, again, self-heal. And all we're doing is actually putting an elastoplast on it, or cleaning it, in a sort of emotional sort of a way. So, this self-healing process is what I seek in my counselling. How can a client self-heal safely? And it's also something which happens in meditation. Again, back to what I was saying before. The counselling is an hour a week. But the meditation is a learning process which acts on it 24/7. Remarkably effective. Steady, slow, but effective. Okay. So there are 4 regular methods of healing. Okay. So let's draw some traumas in here. Okay. Trauma can happen early on in life. Okay. It can happen at school. Maybe first job goes wrong, something happens there. Maybe you have a relationship that goes sour. Maybe somebody's died. Okay. So we can see from a very clean sort of area in which thought processes can run quite fluidly, all of a sudden those processes, which would have freely circulated through here, all of a sudden are hitting problems here. So now our thought processes are not nearly as efficient as they were. So what's the answer? We need to get rid of these traumas. But what we can't do is we can't get rid of the memories, okay? So around these traumas, okay, is a memory. We never forget. Even if we can't consciously recall, we never forget. What we need to be able to do is to recall those events without sensing the emotion wrapped up in them. Okay. So the 4 methods that are in regular use of healing. Okay. So one here is medication, antidepressants. So what antidepressants do is they recognise the fact that we're feeling very sore inside, and they reduce the impact of further stresses on us, so we don't feel quite so bad as we did before. That can be really, really useful in a crisis, but it doesn't actually do the resolution of anything particularly. It just puts us on hold. The second process is CBT. These are offered by our GPs in England. I had a client once who was, whenever anybody asked him how he was, he used to give them his medical history. And he wondered why I got no friends. So we went through this in a CBT manner, cognitive behaviour therapy. The cognitive bit was understand what you're doing. The behaviour bit was change what you're doing. In other words, say, I'm fine, thanks, even if you need to be lying. And the therapy bit was, I've got friends again. But it didn't solve the problem as to why he had a medical history and why he needed to tell everybody that. So again, that was a kind of holding process. Effective, but limited. There's my own discipline, which is person-centred counselling, in which I invite the client, I tell the client, I am prepared to go to the difficult places when you are ready, but not before. So basically, I, the counsellor, are walking with the client into the dark wood, or one of his dark woods. That's done well. The client will come away and find actually that wood wasn't quite so dark after all, and some of that traumatic emotion is now resolved. Okay. Extremely effective, done correctly. Okay. But the fourth one, which is the one that I teach, okay, in particular, the one I'm interested in today, does this. Okay, it's goes straight in from that side and goes straight into the middle. Because what it's doing is there's a process going on here. The self-healing process here is constantly working here on these traumas. What the meditation is doing is reinforcing that. It's making that self-healing process more powerful. The levels at which meditation work are remarkable. After 40 years, I'm still plumbing the depths, which is interesting because the actual instruction is very simple. So the depth really is not the instruction or the meditation, but in actual fact what happens in the self-healing process. So young clients will complain to me about overthinking. Older clients will talk about anxiety and worry. My first degree was scientific, and there's something I did called a do, which is part of computer programming. In computer programming, I was given, say, fetch a number 5, say. Multiply it by itself until it reaches 1,000,000, take the values off to the next process. Simple, straightforward, okay. Takes a nanosecond or so these days. Every computer is embedded in this process, and the human mind is as well. So if I start worrying about something, I want to achieve a result and I can't achieve a result, I keep on worrying until in fact it fills my mind with that stress, and there's very little cognitive stuff left to do anything with. So the meditation process cuts that, okay? It cuts the do loop and enables one to actually get out of it. I was on Malta a year or so ago. Malta is a great big rock, and mainly a soft rock. And in some cases on the island where carts and horses have been coming up, I think particularly the place where the grain cavern is the first horse and cart would go up and go anywhere, but it would go near to the hole that he was dumping the grain in. The second one would make another, but after a while there was a groove forming, and in the end there's no horse and cart could get there without dropping into that groove. We do exactly the same thing. We drop into a stress groove and we keep on doing the same thing. What the meditation does, it gets us out of that. And that is the first port of call of this particular type of meditation, but by no means the last. Okay. So the process of meditation goes like this, really. Okay. It recognises the fact that in the same way as my heart will not stop beating, and my lungs, my breathing will not stop, and the digestive system, all the other autonomic system, is I won't ever stop with breathing. Okay. So basically, is at some point here, the thought will come up to the surface. Only when you get to this point do we realise there's a thought there. And as we're thinking there, we suddenly realise, oh, I'm thinking about this, my worry or whatever it is. Very simply we say, when I notice I'm thinking, I go to the breathing. And that might be quite a nice thought because it's come from the middle, but it might be an unpleasant one coming from here, come to the surface. Thinking away, oh, this is really horrible. Same rule, then notice I'm thinking, go to the breathing. So the process is extremely simple. And that's all it is. And that's anapanasati. And we don't need to do anything more than that. We don't need to count breath, we don't need to do anything, we just do that simple thing. Okay. I go into prisons and I ask the lads, have you had breakfast? It's 11 o'clock, of course I've had breakfast. Okay. So, have you you'll need lunch and you'll need an evening meal, and so you keep on eating every day, don't you? And I said, well, when did you last have any spiritual food? What do you mean by that? Well, I mean stuff that made you feel good, that wasn't physical. Oh, well, okay, I mean, I had a letter from my mother, and I had a visit from my kid and my partner, and a Christmas present we sorted out, and all that sort of stuff. I said, oh, that's fine. But if you ate at the regularity that you had those spiritual inputs, the spiritual food, you'll be looking pretty unhealthy, and you might even die. So we need kind of a spiritual input regularly, which we've forgotten to do. And that's the commitment, okay? So what I say to clients is we need to do this thing every day. Now I start my clients off with 10 minutes, and then when they come back next week I say that 10 minutes is fine, then extend that to 20 minutes. So we do it for specific times. And I tell them that we need to do it every day, we need to do it timed, we need to make sure we're not disturbed, the body needs to be upright, the legs and arms can do what they want. And we do it preferably same time, same place. Okay, can't always do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate to you the actual meditation that I teach. And I am surprised to find that some people watching the video can actually pick this up effectively. You may or may not be able to, okay? Because there's a telepathic component to it which you might struggle to pick up on a video, on the video. But nevertheless, we can still do it, and as I say, it can still be fruitful. So what I'm going to do for the next, 10 minutes, what I'm going to do for the next 5 minutes is the introduction that I do, which is a guided meditation, okay, which I call body awareness. And we can do that together. That's not part of the meditation I teach, that's an introduction. It calms me down, it calms the clients down, and it gets us into the instruction of what the meditation is. And then I will do 5 minutes of simple meditation, but I won't be setting it for 5 minutes, okay? I will just do the introduction clip and then move on to the end, okay? Okay, so what I recommend you do is perhaps watch the video a few times, by all means, of course. I know it's a lengthy video, but it's worth it, I'm sure. And then to try this particular technique, okay? Be as faithful as you can to it, okay? And again, we can do this from introduction each time, but then going into the meditation, you're on your own. And that's the point, this is the major point actually of counselling and the meditation, is this concept that at the centre of my being is everything that I need. I don't need input from outside. I don't need music. I don't need a guided meditation. I don't need anything coming from outside, because the conviction is that everything I need is internally to me. I'm fully resourced emotionally. And it's a really, really important concept. Yes, we do need other support from other people in the same way as structurally, but the thing is I'm in control of this, not giving control to other people. And control is fundamental to this whole process. Okay, so let me move on from now. So I'm now sitting straight up. You can't see all of my body, so I'll describe what I'm doing. I've got my feet on the floor, I've got my back against the seat, and I've got my hands resting on my knees. That's important for the guided meditation, but not for the breathing meditation. I'll now close my eyes, okay, and I'll start. So I've got my feet on the floor, and I can feel the floor. I can feel the weight of my feet on the floor. If I move my feet just slightly, I can feel my calf muscles. I can feel my thighs and the weight of my body on the chair. I can feel my back against the chair. I can feel my stomach muscles supporting my body. I can feel my shoulder muscles supporting my arms. I can feel my arms resting by my side. I can feel my forearms resting on my legs. I feel my hands and my feet. Hands and my fingers, resting on my legs. I feel my neck muscles supporting my head. I feel my facial muscles too. I'm aware of my breath as I breathe in and out. I'm aware of my chest moving as I breathe in and out. Sometimes it moves, sometimes I breathe quickly. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes I breathe deeply. Sometimes it's shallow. But my body knows exactly how much air it needs. So I'll leave it to do that job. I trust it completely. All the time I've been doing this, thoughts have been coming into my head. Sounds outside. Feelings inside. Memories. Plans. Hopes. Fears. All manner of thoughts. So the next time I notice a thought coming into my head, very simply become aware of the breathing. Not to try and think about it, just to become aware of it. Whatever it's doing. And a wee while later my mind will have wandered off again. So again I just come back to the breathing. Now I'm going to do this now for a while in silence and let you know when we're finished. So I'm now going to cut that short and I'll leave you to do the rest of the 10-minute period. But it's important to remember that we're not trying to not think, we can't stop thinking. We can't keep concentrating on the breathing. The only thing that we can effectively do, that's the only bit we can actually control. When I notice I'm thinking, we go to the breathing. And I might do that 10 times a minute. I might do it once in 20 minutes. But if I sit down with the intention of doing this, I am actually meditating. And after 40 years, I don't get better at it. Because in the same way that I have the same toast I did 40 years ago, bread into the toaster, butter, whatever is on it. I don't go for hyper toast, super toast. The miracle of the toast is what happens when it gets inside of me. The meditation is a mechanical process. The miracle is what it's performing or what it's allowing to perform inside. Because what it's doing is it's saying, I'm going to leave the conscious for a while and spend time in the subconscious. Just give it a break. I'm not going to have a drink, phone a friend, put some music on, have a dance, go for a walk. I'm not going to do all of those things. I'll do those another time. But right now, I'm just going to sit and allow my software to heal itself by being alone, no input, just gently allowing the healing to take place. And it does, and it's amazing. Okay. So I hope that that's been successful for you. Do give it a few goes of trying, okay? But I can promise you that if you get this right, then this meditation will transform your life. Whatever stage of life you're in, it is truly a miracle. And I absolutely love doing this. I don't take money for the group sessions that I do. My reward is to see the delight, the joy, the relief, everything else in my clients. Trust me, it's wonderful. Thank you for listening.